Today I am a single time food and the evening food you miss. Or you can say, I am on fruits. Today is Ekadashi. This kind of a thing you say. But true austerity is supposed to touch the mind, involve the mind, and make the mind absorbed in the thought of God, contemplation of God. Even if your stomach is full and you can contemplate upon God, I for one will say no objection to that. But whenever you miss a meal, automatically the mind feels, I am missing my food, I have missed. So it creates a new sensation in the whole body. And this sensation helps you to remember God. Because you are fasting for the sake of God. It's a religious resolve. So that godliness and God memory remains constant when we put or impose this fasting into our biological system. He started contemplating, and then Panchame Masya Nuprapte Jidashwaso Nripatmajaha Dhyayan Brahma Padaikena Tastau Stanurivachalaha. So far I did not give you any Sanskrit rendering in the Sreemad Bhagavatam. Here I thought I must tell you. These are words of Sreemad Bhagavatam. Nectarine words, liberating words, enriching words, empowering words. Words which will create ecstasy for you. Panchame Masya Anuprapte. When the 5th month arrived, Jitashwaso Nripatmajaha. He says, Dhruva, who is the son of Uttanapada, a great king of the time. Jitashwasaha. He was able to have control over his breath. Control over his breath. What does it mean? Generally we intake air. We also push the air outside. The inhalation and exhalation are mostly biological processes. They are governed by what the body does or does not. If you are walking up a hill, there will be heavy breathing. If you are walking on a slow plane, then it's different. But here, because of the mental austerity, the breath becomes affected. So you will find the heaviness goes away. And the difference between inhalation and exhalation, the time duration, that also goes away. The whole inflow and outflow become equal. Thereafter they become feeble, then lighter, feebler, slower. And at one point of time, they can even stop and cease virtually. This happens. That is what is meant by Jidashwasa, Dhyayan Brahma. And he was doing it not for any physical feat. He was doing it for meditation, meditative absorption. So he was contemplating upon Brahma. Brahma means the supreme reality. Now giving it a form and a shape, we speak of it as the Supreme Lord Mahavishnu, the four-handed, exquisitely beautiful form. Padaikena tasthau stanurivachalaha. He was able to stand on the earth with one foot like a huge pillar, a concrete column. He was so firm. Sarvato mana agrishya hridi bhutendriyashayam dhyayan bhagavato rupam nadrakshit kinchanaparam. Sarvato mana agrishya hridi bhutendriyashayam. The process is pursued by a 5-year-old boy. Most of the people who come to me when we discuss meditation, they will instantly say, Swamiji, I cannot sit even for 1 minute. The moment I sit closing my eyes, my mind runs here and there. Where will the mind run? If the mind were to run once, will it ever come back? I think all of you are suffering from a misunderstanding. There is a way for attempting meditation. What is meditation actually? It is an engagement by the mind. Whatever the mind does, you can still meditate. It's a very artful process, very subtle, very refined. Somebody should explain to you properly. Then only meditation can be successful. See, Sarvato mana agrishya. This boy withdrew, he receded from everything around. He was alone, 5-year-old boy. He withdrew the mind. Hridi bhutendriyashayam. The mind is described by Sreemad Bhagavatam even during this episode as bhutendriyashayam manaha. What is meant by bhutendriyashaya? The mind the mind is the source, the support, the substratum for all the existences in the world. Everything is an extension of the mind. When you refer to the world outside, the object world outside, you are referring to your own mind's impression or imprint of the external world. There is no world other than what you experience in your own mind. Besides that mental imprint, there is nothing in the outside world. So Srimad Bhagavata emphasizes this fundamental truth. Bhutendriyashayam manaha. Let it be the huge earth, surrounded by the waters, the seas, still surrounded by the air, still engulfed by the sky with a number of luminaries. Understand, all of them are your own inner mind's creational display. Now that mind he withdrew from everything. If everything is the mind's own display, is there anything for withdrawal? Suppose my mind thinks of an elephant. Does it become an elephant? And the elephant starts hurting me from within? My mind imagines an elephant, and the elephant shape is inside the mind. But that inner elephant does not hurt me. So there is no thought which can devour the mind. There is no contemplation which can affect the mind. You understand this truth, then there is a lot of difference. Dhyayan Bhagavato Rupam. He started contemplating upon the Rupa, the form of Bhagavan, form of the Lord. Nadrakshit Kinchana Param. His absorption in that form of Supreme Lord, Mahavishnu, was so much and so exclusive that he never saw or felt anything else. It was exclusive meditative absorption. Sarvato manākrishya hridi bhutendriyashayam dhyayan bhagavato rupam nadrakshit kinchana param. So what did he do? He stood wherever he was and he withdrew his mind from every impression of its own and asked the mind to remain itself. And for that, as a help, he gave the form of contemplation, namely Mahavishnu. So the buddhi got completely absorbed. The world began to tremble in fearful helplessness. When this boy remained absorbed, breathlessly, the entire world started suffocating, getting suffocated. All the devas and the dikpalas, the guardians of the quarters, they felt immensely disturbed, afflicted, tormented. So the rest to Mahavishnu told him, what is it that we don't have breath, we don't have air to breathe, what has happened? Mahavishnu knew about it. He said, don't worry, that little boy Dhruva, Uttanapada's son, he has come and he is doing austerity on me to please me. It is because of the severity of the young boy's austerity that this kind of an effect, surrounding effect is generated. What does Srimad Bhagavata wants to convey? In all the contributions that the human can make, the human individual can make to the world for its prosperity, well-being or otherwise, understand the austerity has the maximum value, place and importance. You may give money to people, gold to people, dress to people. Very good, very good, very good. You can speak a few words of consolation to the aggrieved hearts. Very good. You can also give an enriching and an enlightening instruction or an exposition to the yearning hearts. See, what am I doing now? I am giving you a spiritual exposure. Every word of what I say represents an idea. And these ideas put together become knowledge. And knowledge is really illumining and enlightening. So I am trying by this telecast series to enlighten my viewers. This enlightening program is the best that I can do for the world. Anybody can do for the world. We don't have Krishna before us. We don't have Rama before us. But we have certainly what Krishna and Rama said to the people around. In the Mukti-skandham, the main subject of discussion is Krishna's advice and instruction to Uddhava. That is the main advice. Now Krishna has disappeared, he is gone, but his words remain eternally here. In the same manner, the words I am communicating to you in the form of exposing Sreemad Bhagavatam, they are so enlightening that you cannot think of a greater contribution from any individual to your life. Our parents may give us something in the form of a bequest, maybe money, wealth, fixed deposit or otherwise. But all these are material, they will remain outside. Your money will be in the form of currency notes or bank deposits, something outer. It will never penetrate into your heart and mind. Only knowledge, ideas, ideals, values, propositions, goals, etc., when properly conveyed, will remain as your inner cherished possession. Understand, this telecast is perhaps the most noble contribution that anybody can do. I wonder whether my viewers understand it properly. We have already telecast quite a number of episodes. We have gone beyond 100, I believe. I am not hearing it. But I would like you to understand that this telecast series cannot be continued. Say, my idea is to continue it and at least cover the 11th skandha in full. It will require about 700, 800 or 900 episodes at this rate. Now, we will not be able to continue the telecast series unless you viewers take an active participation in the telecast program. It is absolutely necessary. Some of the people apparently think that the channel is giving us some money or compensation to produce the matter and give it to them. It's not so. We are incurring the total expenditure for screening it properly through a camera and presenting it in the form of episodes, and we are hiring the time from them by making advance payment every time. I don't know how many people know it. So it is high time that you, ardent listeners, ardent viewers, come to understand the actual fact, the actual situation, and you participate in various measures in enabling this telecast series. This is the one thing that we can give to the society. Our nation is a great nation, holy nation, powerful nation. Only because of the spiritual treasure that we have. Only because of all these things. Whatever I talk to you now, these are all coming down from prehistoric times. You search in the whole world, you will not find another literature as you have in our cherished motherland called India. We are so great a nation. It's only because of the knowledge our forefathers have preserved, cherished and disseminated. From generation to generation, a few people were there to imbibe it, then to practice and perfect it, then to propagate and disseminate it. That is why it has come. So what happened? Mahavishnu understood, and he also became anxious to go and see this little child. Mahavishnu came and stood before him. Mahavishnu also became anxious. Perhaps he also found it was for the first time that a prince like Dhruva was doing severe austerities on him. 4 months have already passed. Now he is completely on fast. He does not even breathe air. So the situation was a very emergent one. So he wanted to rush there. When he went there, Dhruva's intelligence as well as the mind was enraptured by the Lord's supreme splendor. The beautiful four-handed form, completely immersed in radiance and splendor. This is what Dhruva's mind was enraptured with, captivated with, steeped in. So he was standing on one leg and contemplating upon the Lord, completely lost in his form and formful splendor. You know what happened? Suddenly, the form disappeared. It was a shock to Dhruva. What happened? What happened? He opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, whatever he lost, the same form, lo, was standing before him. He was absolutely surprised, nonplussed. He did not know what to do. Till then, he was closing his eyes, and the form was appearing and radiant in his mind. Now suddenly, the form, inner form disappeared, and he finds physically Mahavishnu standing with 4 hands and all the necessary insignia. Srimad Bhagavatam describes it in this form. Savaidhiya yoga vibhaga tivraya Hrit Padmakoshe Spuritam Tadit Prabham Tirohitam Sahasaivohalakshya Behistidam Tadavastam Dadarsha Savaidhiya Yoga Vipakati Vraya Hrit Padmakoshe Spuritam Tadit Prabham. I think these are points which all of you will have to specially bear in mind. Meditation is a process that we do. Concentration is a fruition of this meditative effort which we accomplish. And whatever happens in meditation, it is actually the becoming and the excellence of our mind. It is wrong to attribute external factors to the whole process. You have a walking stick, you hold it firmly in your hand and you walk to facilitate your walking, to have stable steps. Meditation, puja or anything whatsoever is something like an aid we ourselves employ, and the aid itself is designed by us. So here they are using a word, wonderful word, Savaidhiya Yoga Vipagati Vraya. Dhiya, by virtue of his intelligence. Yoga Vipagati Vraya. When the intelligence was engrossed in the pursuit of yoga, what is yoga? Yoga is actually a merger that takes place within your body in the level or sphere of consciousness. So the mind, the intelligence, the ego, all of them get merged into their own source, their own substratum. So the yoga is actually that kind of an inner consciousness process by virtue of which the desultory mind becomes centric or concentric. It becomes exclusive, and at one point of time all the distractions come to cease and the mind becomes merged in its own superior or supreme essence. So that yoga vipaka tivraya, by virtue of the intensity that he was able to put into and accomplish in the inner spiritual contemplative exercise or pursuit, Hrit Padmakoshe Spuridam. Hrit means Hridaya, Padmakoshe, in the lotus, in the blooming lotus of his heart, Spuridam, radiant, brilliant there, Tadit Prabham, as much brilliant and shining, stunningly so, as lightning. That was the form his mind was able to capture and was attuned to. And this was continuing for quite substantially a time. It is that Tirohitam Sahasaivohalakshya, suddenly it disappeared. Suppose that inner brilliance did not disappear, then the young boy would not have opened his eyes at all. It was so enrapturing, so captivating, so fascinating, so absorbing, so engulfing, that he would not have been able to extricate himself from that inner hold to come out into the wide open. So it was necessary that this inner brilliance suddenly ceased to be. Tirohitam sahasaivohalakshya. So he understood that the inner brilliance suddenly has sunk, disappeared. Behistidam tadavastham dadarsha. When he opened, he did not miss anything. What he was seeing all along inside him, now he found veritably in front. Just see what happened. This is what happens. How beautifully it is explained. I would like you to read these verses. Tirohitam sahasaivohalakshya behistidam tadavastam dadarsha. The little boy, you know that he had no tuition from the mother and no tuition perhaps from the father also. And the stepmother had only ridicule and disdain to offer him. In spite of it, what happened in the dense forest? Taddarshanena agata sadhvasakshidau avandataangam vinamaya dandavad dribhyam prapashyan prabiban nivarbhagaha chumban nivasyena bhujairivashlishan. See, who told this boy? You know what he did? Suddenly, taddarshanena agata sadhvasaha. When he saw this external form, right outside and in front, if it was inside, he had nothing to do. It was his own mind's splendor. Whenever the body has to act, the mind has to employ the body. This mind which has to employ the body was itself absorbed in the inner splendor. So he had nothing to do there except be absorbed, remain absorbed there. Now here he found, separate from him and right in front stands the beautiful lotus-eyed four-handed Mahavishnu. He found a clear distance between what he sees and what he himself was. So suddenly, tad darshanena agata sadhvasaha. Till then he had seen only his father, his mother, his stepmother, Uttama the stepbrother, and all human forms and other things of the world he had seen. For the first time he is seeing something like Lord Mahavishnu in beautiful splendor, right close to him standing. So it created a sense of perplexity. He was confounded. There was consternation in his mind. In spite of it, what did he do? Kshidau avandatangam vinamaya dandavad. My dear viewers, this is our culture. This is our culture. This is the refined culture that we have gained. Whenever you see anybody so high and great, what will you do? You will fold your hands and bend your head. And the maximum of it is falling on the ground like a stick. There are people who will say, what is this culture where a human prostrates before another? It is not a question of whom you prostrate. It is a question of whether you feel like prostrating. We are worshipping the stone idols, the clay idols, the wood idols. But we don't prostrate and adore them saying, my dear wood, my dear stone, my dear earth. We don't say that. We are seeing it as the Supreme Lord. And before the Supreme Lord, what will you do? You will hold your head 2 inches above his head. What is it that you will do? So before the elders and before greatness and splendor, our attitude should be one of humility and humbleness. So he right then, without anybody telling him, avandatangam vinamaya dandavad, angam dandavad vinamaya kshidau. Right upon the ground. Where? In the forest. It is not in the palace, mind you. The place may not be uneven. It could have been a rocky structure. Whatever it is, he just fell prostrate before that Mahavishnu. Drubhyam prabhashyan prabivan ivarbhakaha. Apparently Mahavishnu felt, Vedavyasa says, Drubhyam prabhashyan prabivan ivarbhakaha. He was seeing, not seeing, drinking through his eyes. Drubhyam prabhashyan prabivan ivarbhakaha. Though he was a child, he knew that here is Mahavishnu, whom I have to absorb and assimilate into my system. He may go away at any time, but before that, I should assimilate that greatness and splendor and absorb it into me. Chumban nivasyena bhujairiva ashlishan. And with his face and mouth, he was trying to chumban, that is kiss. Then bhujairiva ashlishan. With his little hands, he wanted to embrace the Mahavishnu. All these are mental feelings he had. Mahavishnu felt that this boy is doing it so confidently, so endearingly, so lovingly, so fondly, and so beautifully well. Tad darshanena agada sadhva sakshidau avandatangam vinamaya dandavad dribhyam prabhashyan prabivan nivarbhagaha chumban nivasyena bhujairiva ashlishan. What is the message from this statement? The message from this statement is that a devotee can be to any extent free with the object of devotion.